Hi there, I've been having a lot of fun lately with doing lots and lots of reading, much more than I usually do. And for the month of May, I decided that I wanted to expand a little bit my reading horizons. I want to try reading from genres that I don't typically read from. And so for this video, I was thinking to start with sci-fi. I, in fact, don't think I've ever read a sci-fi book before, but I am very excited to try it out. I think sci-fis are types of books who will really transport me into a different place completely. So for this week, I have two books that I would like to read. The first one I already started, and it's The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu. This is a trilogy. This is the first book in the trilogy, and it's a trilogy that was really popularized a couple of years ago with a new Netflix series. I wanted to read the book first, but I just had to watch the series. So I did watch the first season of the series, which I think covers pretty much what happens in this first book, so I already kind of know what happens. But I'm still excited to visit it in the book format and see if the book is a little bit different than the TV series. I thought the TV series was exceptional though, so I think it's going to be pretty hard to top that off. It's difficult to explain this book without giving too many spoilers, so I'll just try to be very kind of brief with it. We are set in a couple different timelines. So in the present, there are a bunch of scientists, specifically physicists, who are disappearing mysteriously, and we are trying to understand why they're disappearing. They might be related to an academic, scientific society. And then there's a dual timeline in the past, which is set in the backdrop of the Oh, hello. Which is set in the backdrop of the Chinese Revolution. And in that specific timeline, we are following a young lady whose father was brutally murdered during the revolution because he was an academic and his beliefs were falling outside of the boundaries of what the ruling party was ready to accept as reality. And so we are following her after her dad dies, grappling with the struggles of living in that time, and also getting an opportunity to work for a secret military base as a physicist. I already started reading. I am 62 pages through, and I'm really loving it already. In the book, we sometimes get the perspective of some people that in the TV series we don't get. We kind of get to know a little bit of what they're thinking. So I think that's a really interesting addition that is not in the TV series, but so far so good. I'm loving the story. And I'm really excited to continue. So this will be the first book that I'll pick up this week. And then when I'm done with that one, I will also pick up This Is How You Lose the Time War. This one I don't know much about, but I know that a lot of people really love this book. Apparently it's written in a writing style that is very lyrical, almost poetic. And I think it's the story of Red and Blue, who are two enemies in a war within time and space, who are writing love letters to each other. So these are the two books that I want to start off my science fiction journey with, and I'm going to keep reading during the week and give you updates on my thoughts and on these two books. Hello, it's a couple of days later. I have made quite a bit of progress in this book. I am now 266 pages through, so a little bit more than halfway. I finally reached the third part of the book, which is the final part of the book. I'm continuing to really enjoy this book. We have three parts. In the first part, I think we set the kind of historical, cultural background of the characters, and we get used to all of the characters, what they do. In the second part of the book, it's really where the sci-fi elements, I think, thrive. Mostly in the second part, we are following a little mystery intrigue, and at the same time, we are set, and this is not a spoiler, we are set in a video game. And this video game is super interesting. It's where most of the physics and astrology elements are brought into this book, and it's so freaking interesting, and there's a little bit of a mystery revolving this video game, so it's just all very intriguing. I'm really enjoying how there are so many layers to this story. There's so many different points of view, There's layers in terms of also historical layers, like we have different timelines that we follow. Within the video game even, there's historical references all the time. We get to meet Copernicus and Aristotle in the video game, which is so cool. And there's these discussions about these big physicists and their discoveries. I do feel like sometimes all of these different perspectives and historical layers could get a bit too much. I feel like the fact that I've watched the TV series before really set a foundation for me to understand the book. At the point where I'm at in the book, we start to get some of our questions answered. So we start to know a little bit more about this video game, specifically what role it plays in the story. We get to know a bit more about the historical timeline from the Cultural Revolution that I talked about last time. We get to know kind of how that timeline culminates and what's kind of the end point of that. And I think in part 3 our characters are going to be dealing with all of these realizations that we've had in part 2, and see how kind of it all unfolds in the present. I've been enjoying taking a lot of walks and listening to this on audiobook too. I've been also physically reading an audiobook at the same time, so it's kind of a nice experience with both. I think listening to this on audiobook could be a great choice because it's such an enveloping story. I think the asset of this book is really its plot. The plot is so inventive. The writing itself, the characters, it's okay, but it's nothing out of the ordinary. What really stands out from this book is how creative the world is and how the author managed to put this one idea that he had into so many different layers, as I said, in historical layers or different characters. My plan is to maybe try to finish it by tomorrow, but so far so good. I'm really looking forward to finishing it, and of course I'm already thinking about buying the sequel. Alright, I'll check in with you later. Day yesterday. It was really sunny, and so I went in a park, as you've seen in the last couple clips, and I ended up finishing the 3-Body Problem in the park. I like that the ending of the book is a little bit different than the ending of the TV series. The TV series, I think it's a bit more dramatized. There's a couple extra characters that make the story a bit more dramatic, whereas in the book is not as dramatic, and it's really more focusing on the sci-fi elements of the story, which I personally really enjoyed. The end of the book, how can I talk about this without spoiling it? There is a certain section in the end of the book which really talks a lot about how some of the things that happen during the book are possible in terms of physics and in terms of technology, and it gets into a discussion about dimensions and particles, and I thought it was really cool and interesting, and I really like that aspect. I wonder why they didn't include it in the TV series. I thought it was a really cool aspect of the book. Yeah, I'm done with the book. It was a very good story, a very good book. I think on the whole I probably liked the TV series better, just because in this story there's certain scenes that are so imaginative, and to see them in front of your eyes, to visually be able to see those scenes, it just enhances the experience. Whereas if I read them, sometimes I feel like my imagination just is not able to capture all of the intricacies of what the author's imagination tried to put into words, and so sometimes I like to see it on the screen. So for that reason, I think that the actual TV series was a better experience for me, but the book was equally really good, and I kind of wish I read the book first so that I kind of get a sense of the world more in terms of the physics of it and the technological aspects of it, and then going into the TV series and have that visual experience too. I think that would have been the best way to go about it. But overall, I really enjoyed the story. I kind of stopped giving star ratings to books. I'm not super strict on it. I just kind of feel like sometimes when I give star ratings to books, I focus too much on what the rating would be during my experience with the reading of the book rather than focusing on the story, and I just hate that. So I am no longer putting a pressure on myself to rate any books that I read. But just to give you kind of an idea of where I would put this book if I had to, it would be a little bit below a 5-star. It's not a perfect book to me. I think that the writing itself is very matter of fact, which there's nothing wrong with that. But for me to experience a book a bit more on another level, I feel like the writing has to have a little bit something special there to intrigue me a little bit. Some of the characters are really nicely fleshed out. For example, Dashi, who is the police officer in this mystery. I really like his character. I think he has specific characteristics that really intrigue me about him. But the rest of the characters in this story, I feel that they're a little bit flat. So yeah, I think that because of those two reasons, it could not be a perfect book to me, but the story itself was super captivating, and I would highly encourage anybody to read this book. I also ended up starting in the park yesterday, This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal Al-Matar and Max Gladstone. I also read a little bit this morning, so I'm 67 pages through the book, making my way through it very quickly, and I'll probably finish it today. Remember how I said in the other book that I want the writing to be a bit more special, I want it to be a bit more lyrical. I feel like this book took that to a whole other level. The writing in this is super lyrical, super poetic, to the point where I feel like it's mostly poetry in the form of prose. And I'm not particularly a fan of that. At the beginning of the story, reading the first 20 to 25 pages, I was like, this is not the book for me. I just don't like it. Some of the words are put in there just for effect rather than them actually meaning something, and I don't like that. That happens a lot in poetry, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it creates the aesthetic, a certain ambience, which is necessary for poems. And a lot of people love that type of writing. I do not. Starting this book, I was like, okay, this is exactly what that is, and I don't like it. Because of that, also, you are very confused at the beginning. You don't know what is happening, who are the characters, where are we, when are we? It's really just a confusing blob of words at the beginning, and the writing changes a little bit as the story goes forward. Either the writing changes or I change and I get used to it, but I have a feeling the writing gets a little bit more grounded as the story goes on, because now I'm 67 pages through and I'm really enjoying the story. Essentially, is the story of two agents. They are presumably from a future where we are now able to time travel. There's some sort of time travel war that is fought between two parties. We don't know too much about either of these parties. We don't know what's the purpose of the war, but we are following two agents, both of these representative of these two parties that are fighting against one another. And it's kind of the trope of enemies to lovers. So they start off as being enemies, and you could slowly see that the letters get more and more personal, and it's really beautiful because this is also futuristic. In terms of eating, they don't have to eat to sustain themselves. They just have IVs that are placed, to my understanding, where all the nutrients are being placed in their body, and so they never really feel hunger. In these letters, these two, blue and red, these two agents kind of explore what is hunger, what does it mean to be able to eat, or why do you eat? Is eating even something that is desirable? One of the agents mentions how she thinks eating is actually quite disgusting if you think about it. Like, you take something that was in the mud outside that grew in the earth, and then you smash it, and then you make some sort of product out of it, and it goes through your body, and it just describes this process as a very disgusting thing to do. So it's very interesting. They have these discussions about things that for us are trivial, like eating. Obviously everybody eats, you need to eat, but for them they kind of see it from another perspective of, I don't have to eat, so now I'm gonna actually examine what eating is and how it happens and what it means in a more kind of philosophical way. So I'm really enjoying those passages, and I'm really enjoying the conversation between these two. So I'm enjoying this so far. It started really rough, and now I'm actually getting to enjoy the story. I have a feeling this has the potential to cause some trauma. I don't know how the story will end, and that kills me. Is like, please have a good ending, because I'm already loving these two characters and the synergy that they create with each other. So I'll continue to read this during the day. I'll probably finish it today, and then I'll get back to you with my final thoughts. It's many hours later and I finally finished This Is How You Lose the Time War. This book was definitely a ride. It started off being very ambiguous, and the flowery writing really threw me off at the beginning. But then towards the middle of the book, I started to enjoy the flowery writing. I think it was really beautifully matched with the tone of the romance and the love story in this book, because it's definitely a love story that is very passionate and very kind of fiery. If you are into beautiful lyrical prose, I think this is definitely going to be the book for you. I would say keep reading past maybe 20-30 pages. Even though it's quite confusing at the beginning, it gets better and you get used to the writing. The ending itself was a little bit of a letdown. There's this big climactic moments that happens at the end, which I kind of saw coming, and if you read the book you probably know what I'm talking about. But after that moment happened, more things kept happening, and I just thought that was way overdone. Because this book was so complex in its writing, and you as a reader have to work so hard to get to the meaning, because of that I think the book would have balanced itself out a little bit if the ending itself would have been just simple, just kind of more calm. Overall, I really did enjoy this book. I think it's a wonderful work, and I think it's probably gonna, you know, become a new modern classic in a couple of years where people will study this book, and I think it's really wonderfully written. So overall, in this week of reading sci-fi, I've read 2 books. Three Body Problem, which is definitely more sci-fi-y in like the real sense of the word. There's a lot of physics, a lot of math happening, and then a more sci-fi that is a little bit genre blending. There's sci-fi, but there's also romance. There's also, I would say, a little bit of fantasy in there. Both of these were really good reads for me. I really enjoyed myself with both, and I think it was great for me to do this kind of mini challenge where I read for a week a genre that I'm not used to usually reading. I really would like to continue doing this just to broaden my horizons of the types of books that I read. I don't read a lot of thriller, I don't read a lot of romance, and so maybe I could do a couple videos where I would focus on those specific genres as well. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you're having a lovely day. Bye.